don't know if TikTok is ending, but I'm going to be messy and go ahead and share the story of how I'm supposed to be driving to Philadelphia literally right now, but I'm not, because I found out the guy that I'm dating and was supposed to be meeting up with has a live-in girlfriend of 5 years. If you followed me for any amount of time, you would know that I am a certified crash out. I have never been one to heal in silence. I've always been one to tweet through it, or in this case, TikTok through it. I'm always going to process exactly how I'm feeling out loud. There's, again, no shame in that. What's shameful is what you did, Montez. Let's start with how he and I started. Because I don't give a like I said, I'm so tired of men just not being held accountable. His name on here is Becoming a Psychologist, and on Twitter and Instagram, it's Joe Sweatpants. And again, his name is Montez, so fuck Montez. Anyway, we started out because I posted a picture, a selfie on Twitter, and because I'm so gorgeous, I got a lot of followers, and just people that were kind of like hitting me up off of that selfie, and he was one of them. He messaged me on Twitter and said something like the initial conversation that we had didn't really go anywhere. And then a few days later, he messaged me on Instagram. I want to say this was like right before Thanksgiving was his very, very first message to me on Twitter. And then right after Thanksgiving was his second message to me on Instagram. The conversation that we had on Instagram like stuck. It kind of went somewhere, and well, it went everywhere. From there, we never stopped talking. We decided to like exchange numbers, and he asked me to call him. I remember I was driving home from my parents' house that day, so I called him like while I was in the car driving home, and then the second I got home, I FaceTimed him. I am a very delusional lover girl. Literally, my name on Twitter is Lovergirl Kenny. But at the same time, as you know, delusional and crazy as I am, I don't like to assume that every single guy that hits me up is like on some romantic shit. Like, I like to kind of feel it out first, and I had thought it was, but it was confirmed to me during our first FaceTime call when I got on the screen and he was like, wow, you're real life gorgeous. Like, you're not just, it's not just like on Twitter. So I was like, okay, this is like what I thought it was. There's something here, basically. Every day after that, we talked, texted, and FaceTimed like heavy every single day, all day. We talked about taking trips together. We wanted to go to Canada and Philly and Michigan, like all these different places just all across the nation. I had just started a new job, maybe like a month and a half, 2 months prior to he and I connecting. So I didn't have leave yet. Like, I was still within my 90 days at work, and I didn't have leave yet. So I didn't want to commit to taking a trip, but I was like, in the future, once I figure it out, yes, like I'm down. So that was kind of like in the balance, and we were talking about it, but we hadn't set anything up yet. But we still continued talking, like I said, FaceTiming, calling, texting, all day, every day, up until early December when, like, through the time that I took a business trip for work. I was literally texting him, like, the whole road trip. I was talking to my coworker about him and kind of saying, like, there's this new guy in my life. I called him to let him know I was going out to dinner, texted him throughout dinner pictures of the food I got back home to the hotel, and FaceTimed him, like, we were talking about all the things that like you talk about when you're meeting someone new and trying to get to know someone new. Like, this wasn't just sexual. It wasn't just like light stuff. Like, we were talking, and he handled me with so much care. Like, I don't even know how to describe it. He's studying to become a therapist, as his out on here would suggest. And he was so sensitive with me and so caring, and so he just handled me with care. Like, I really enjoyed talking to him. It was such a delight, and I always looked forward to it. I can't stress this enough. It was fully understood that we were talking as though we were interested in being with one another. We wanted to get to know each other on a deeper level. I mentioned a second ago that it was all until I got home from like the work trip that I went on, and that was because we got into an argument the second I got home. The work trip was exhausting. It was a lot of fun, but it was a lot of work, a lot of being on the go, paired with being inebriated. So on the day that I traveled back from work, I got home and I like had to go pick up my puppy. I had just like a lot of stuff to do. I finally got home and I was just exhausted, but he was like pressuring me to FaceTime him because I don't think we got to FaceTime that day because I had been like on the road. So he's pressuring me to FaceTime him. I was like, I really want to have energy for you. Like, I'm not going to be fun to talk to if I talk to you like right now because I'm so tired. So he was like, okay, take your nap. I took a nap, and I thought I was going to wake up, but I ended up not. I just slept through the night up until like through the next morning. So I texted him and I was like, I'm so sorry. I was so tired. I just ended up falling asleep. Like, I'm sorry. I could tell he was disappointed because he had texted me saying like, that's enough sleep or whatever, and something else. So I knew he was kind of like annoyed that I had fallen asleep, but it wasn't that big of a deal to me. Like I was literally telling you all day, I'm so tired, but I can't wait to talk to you. Like it was just a mistake and not something that I think someone should be upset about. I feel like you would be kind of understanding of that. But he texted me back and said something just so dry, like so dry and so emotionless, and it triggered me. It was just so unlike him because, like I said, he handled me with so much care. And in relationships that I've had in the past, I don't like being treated like I'm being punished for doing something wrong. Like if there's something that you don't like me doing, say it. Don't withdraw emotion, if that makes sense. I didn't like it. So I was like, it's early enough. I'm just going to cut this off. And I didn't even respond. I just ghosted him, which I know is hypocritical from what I just said, but cut my losses, cut him off. And we didn't talk for maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks, something like that. During that time though, he watched every single story I posted. I muted his. He liked all my selfies. He liked all my tweets. And I was making, you know, special care to avoid all of his because that's just me. I think I literally tweeted during that time frame, like my husband would never, because I just didn't think that like he was the guy for me, and that I'm realizing now is my intuition. I wish I would have listened to her. Good Lord. But I was ready to be done with him is basically how it felt. One day though, this was probably like a week, not even a week, less than a week before Christmas though, he messages me and he was like, are you good? This was on Instagram. And I was like, yep. Like, yeah, I'm fine. Why? What's up? And he was like, you just haven't responded to me or something like that. And I was like, yeah, your last message was so dry that like I didn't even want to entertain it for a second. Why would I? We got into a talk from there. We kind of explained each other's sides and we both understood each other's sides, but we like talked through the issue is basically the root of that conversation. And he was like, I miss you. And I said, I know. I know you miss me. He basically was saying like he liked me so much and he was really disappointed that he didn't get to talk to me. He wished that I had just said what I was feeling at the time instead of ghosting him, because the therapist popped out, like, you talk through things. You're supposed to fix things and not just run away from them. But from there, we kind of rekindled things. We kissed and made up, and we were right back to talking heavy like we had been the weeks prior. FaceTimes, calls, texts, all day long, all over again, right? Like, nothing had lapsed. We continued that pattern every single day, minus like maybe 1 or 2 days where I caught an attitude with him on like New Year's and I just didn't want to talk to him. But on New Year's Day, we rekindled, and he FaceTimed me that morning actually. So like everything was good from there. He was literally like, I can't stay mad at you once he saw me. Yeah, like things were just fine after that. Really started to like kind of get to know each other and grow to like each other. I really cannot explain to you how much time and effort this man poured into me. Since some of my past relationships, I've been very, very avoidant and very quick to cut someone off at like the first hint of something. But he would every single time grab me by the neck and pull me back in. Would always maintain that he wanted to work through problems and like fix things, because that's what you do in a relationship. We had all the conversations that you could think of, like FaceTime dates for hours at a time sometimes. He would call me every single day on his lunch break. I would sit there and I would talk to his coworkers. I would meet all of his friends. I FaceTimed with a few of his friends. His friends would literally be like, he went by the nickname Speech. They'd be like, Speech is a good guy. You gotta, make sure you take care of him. Like he wasn't the one around. But yeah, like after finding out what I found out, like I truly don't understand how this man had enough hours in the day. Nor do I understand how he had an abundance of men, these friends that like were not shit as he was, because I felt so prioritized and like I was becoming part of his life as he was mine. He talked to my coworkers too. What the fuck? Anyway, we were talking about kids, we were talking about marriage, we were talking about how he wanted me to come and like sit in the gym at his basketball place, or sit and watch him play basketball at his gym with all the other wives and baby mamas. He would be annoyed if I took too long to respond to him. He would literally call me if like I hadn't texted back in a quick enough time. He's calling me baby, my baby, honey, my love, my wonderful lady. Like I had all these nicknames. We were talking about our future together, our past traumas, like getting deep, and I was guarded and he knew that, and he actively worked to get me to trust him. There was one time where he told me that he was going on a hike, so I knew he was gonna be kind of like out of pocket that day, but I was expecting him to still wake up and text me good morning like he had every single other day. I didn't hear from that man until 7 p.m. my time. I think he's Pacific time, so it's like 3 hours behind, 4 p.m. his time. So I was like, that's annoying, and I was really irritated by it. but I was trying not to be. Coincidentally, that same day, someone had gone through like my media tab on Twitter and liked this picture of, it was like a silhouette of my ass. It's a good picture. I ended up reposting it, and I like shared it to my Instagram story too. And I was like, oldie but goodie or something was like the caption that I put. A little bit after I posted that and he texted me, he responded to my Instagram story and he was like, wow, I literally...
You know what I can tell you about a woman is that intuition is right on the money. If you have an inkling about somebody, you don't know what it is, just sit on it and let it be. It will come to light. What's done in the dark will come to the light. And this guy has some secrets. 5-year relationship. Oh, it's a cutoff and it's a block. I don't understand why she continued this relationship after that. But everybody has to learn their lessons. And when you're deep in love with someone, it's really hard to separate what you thought about them in your head versus the reality. But it's happened to a lot of people. What do you guys think? Have you had any like stories like this where someone had been lying about a big significant part of their life? Put it in the comment section below.